Thank you, everybody, for joining our Minneapolis DFL, Minnesota DFL State Officers Forum. My name is Conrad Lane Zibikowski, and I am the chair of Minneapolis DFL. Our moderator today is Brianna Rose Lee, our chair emerita. And Brianna, would you like to take it from here?
Sure, I can introduce myself. Brianna Rose Lee, I use she, her pronouns. I am a member of the Minnesota DFL State Executive Committee for CD5, as well as the Nominations Committee. I'm a proud union member in IATSE Local 490 and also in Actors Equity. And I've been with the DFL since about 2019, 2020. So excited to be moderating today, and I will also be one of your co-chairs for the business conference. So you'll be seeing my face a lot these next couple of weeks. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are going to be the rules for today. Candidates are going to each have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, so that'll be the longest portion, everyone speaking. We'll do that first. Candidates will address the forum in a random order, and then we'll be rotating. And we do have this pre-planned as well to make sure that everyone is randomized and that this is equitable to everyone. All questions are addressed to every candidate, no matter which party position they are seeking. And I know that's been different in some of the other forums, so I did want to bring that up. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, and we will be timing this because we don't want to run over. So don't feel like I'm being harsh or anything if I cut you off. We do want to just keep this on time. And I know we have a couple people who aren't able to stay the whole time too, so I really do want to make sure we can move this along. And you will notice the chat is disabled. Candidates are going to be the only ones speaking and on camera. So we won't need the chat. Hopefully you've already submitted your questions ahead of time. All right. And without further ado, let's just jump right into this. So introductions is going to be our question 1. What is your name? What are you running for? And why are you running for that state officer position? You'll see the order of the candidates is on the screen, and we will start with Anita.
All right. Thank you so much, Brianna and Conrad, for hosting this event for us. My name is Anita Smithson. I am running to be your next DFL party secretary. And I am running because I think we're at a really important time in our party. With Ken Martin taking the charge to lead the DNC, I think we've got a great opportunity to look at our party leadership and the way that we do things to make sure that we are prepared to win in 2026. A little bit of background about me. I grew up in Hutchinson, Minnesota. I now live in Bloomington with my husband, my 3 children, and my 2 rescue dogs. I have been involved with the DFL officially since 2016. I am an avid volunteer in my community. I am on the board of Bloomington Pride. We're hosting our 5th annual festival this year. I'm also the chair of the Bloomington Human Rights Commission. I'm really excited for the work that I do in that role. And I think that all of my background, it really leads well to running for the DFL secretary role. I'm, running because I think we need to really look at the way that we're doing things, but I also have a really great vision for the role and how I would like to serve you all in your roles in Minneapolis DFL and in all of your Senate districts and congressional districts. My platform is that I really want to focus on transparency, timeliness, and thoroughness. And I'm excited to get through the questions today so I can share more about all of that. You can also look at my website, which is anitasmithsonmn.com. I've got lots of information on there, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to chat with you all today. And I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Next, we'll hear from Charles Wright.
Yeah. How you guys doing? Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
My name is Charles Wright. I'm running for the State Outreach and Inclusion Office position. A little bit about myself. I am a current Outreach and Inclusion Officer for ST55. I worked on the Harris Walls campaign as a constituency manager. I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit organization, BPA, stands for Black Political Action. It's an organization to get more minorities involved in politics. Why am I running? It's obvious, I think, to everybody that we definitely have lost a lot of ground, especially with this last election. And I really, truly believe that in order to have, to increase these numbers, we have to focus on, marginalized communities that might not have been a part of the politics before. I believe with the organizations that I'm tied to and the relationships that I've built with people across the state, I believe that I can be very effective to contribute to the outreach efforts. I mean, I'm accepted in several different spaces. They know me, they're familiar with me, and I have so many ideas and innovative ways and things that I think can increase the numbers in this party if I was allowed to be the next state outreach and inclusion officer position. About myself, I'm a small business owner in my community. It's a barbershop. Definitely that's where all the grassroots information is attained. So I definitely know what's going on in the community, and I just want to, I want everybody to realize that we really need help. A lot of people have been telling me a lot of disappointing things when it comes to our party. And I really think in order for us to reach out to these people, we have to listen to them and understand why they don't want to be connected with us in the first place, and then, you know, find a way to bridge that gap. So basically, I'm here, I'm running. I think that I was only even recognized to even be in this space because of the amount of different spaces that I've been in. So again, my name is Charles Wright. And if you elect me to be the next state outreach officer, I do believe wholeheartedly that I can have some kind of significant impact on increasing the numbers in the DFL. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Next, we'll hear from Siri Everett.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I just want to let folks know that I am actually at the airport in Baltimore, and I'm returning home from a special ed conference, but wanted to make sure to hop on today and at least do a quick little intro and hello. A couple of things about me. I have served the last couple of years as your DFL party secretary, running for reelection. Just a couple of things I think for folks to know about why I'm running. You know, we're in a pretty challenging position, you know, as a party, and just politically in this country. And, you know, one of the reasons that I do this work is because of the students that I work with, right? So I live in Red Wing, I work in Minneapolis, and, you know, I have to tell you, my students are probably some of the most marginalized, you know, in society. And that really weighs heavily on me and really influences my work in this party. And, you know, looking ahead at this transitional period that we're in with moving on from Ken, moving into a new kind of leadership team, I really think it's important that the new chair has a team behind him that actually has some experience, that knows the role, and can do the role well. And so I feel like that's me. A couple things that I've done in my time as secretary. When I came in, our Google group was actually shut down, and a lot of folks don't remember that, but it was shut down because the previous secretary was receiving threats. And so I did go in and reorganize that group, and I have to say that it's been working far more efficiently since that time. Also, just traveling around the state, that's a huge part of this job that isn't often talked about, and I'm proud of that work as well. So hopefully I'll get a chance to connect with you all very soon. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you, and safe travels today. I know that you're hopping on, so we'll keep you as long as we can. Quentin, you are up next.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Quentin Watumo-Chama. I'm running for Outreach and Inclusion Officer. I'm running for this role, and I'll tell you a little bit about me because I think as we look back at the 2024 elections and we look forward to 2026, we see that there are serious deficits in our DFL party. There are communities that we are missing. There are folks who are walking away, and we really need to think about how we are re-energizing, refocusing, and taking the fight around outreach and inclusion seriously. I'm the president of the Minnesota Young DFL. I'm the president of the Young Democrats of America, where I work to serve 25,000 young Democrats across this country every single day. I spent my career working to bring people into this party, bring people into this process at times that have been often extremely difficult. We are struggling with so many different communities of color, immigrant communities, young people. And I'm running for this position for one simple reason. We need to build back, not just for 2026, but beyond if we want to be competitive in 2028. Right now, there are a lot of disillusioned Democrats, disillusioned independents, disillusioned Republicans that are fed up with politics as usual. I want to make sure that our organizing units have the tools, the resources, and most importantly, the support from the state party possible to make sure they can make inroads in those communities, whatever those communities may look like for them. We know that Minneapolis and Moorhead and Rochester are very different communities. We need this position to be nimble, to be malleable. We need our state party to support those efforts and recognizing that there are challenges unique to every community. And I'm running for that because I bring a depth of experience with that. I have the knowledge, I have the passion, I have the energy, and I think most importantly, I have the creativity to do things different for our party. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Richard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend on Zoom, learning about the candidates seeking statewide office. Special thank you to Brianna and Conrad for organizing this. I just sent them a note. This is a very well-organized forum already. Super excited about the countdown clock, Conrad. Just a little bit about me. I got started in politics in 2002. I volunteered for the Paul Wellstone campaign. He inspired a bunch of college students that year. And one of the things I always remember is he implored us that politics is about the improvement of people's lives. And indeed, that's why I'm a Democrat, and that's why I think our party exists. We exist to elect good people to public office who are going to wake up each and every day thinking about how they can improve the lives of those around them. In 2004, I got myself elected mayor of St. Joseph, reelected in 2006. Went on to work for Governor Walz when he was a member of Congress, set up his first reelection campaign in 2008, and then managed his 2010 race, tough year. That was the Tea Party wave. We were able to win despite them throwing everything at us. In 2011, I was asked to run Minnesotans United for All Families, the Vote No campaign, which was the statewide initiative that defeated a very hurtful and divisive anti-marriage ballot amendment. And we did so with thousands of volunteers, thousands of donors, and a lot of you, I think, were active in that effort. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. 6 months later, Governor Dayton signed it into law, marriage equality into law, and I got to marry my husband, Justin, who I've been with for 17 years. I'm running because I think our party needs to meet the moment. The fight is here, and we need to be a party that's ready to meet voters where they're at, provide tools and resources to Democrats each and every day in order to ensure that they are able to get involved, empower themselves, and be part of pushing back on Trump and pushing past Trump so that we can win in 2026 and in 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Marge. I don't know if I saw her in here.
I don't think she's here, Brianna.
Okay, I don't think so either.
Marge and Shivanti were at other in-person events today.
Okay, great. I will skip right over then. Next, we'll hear from Jack.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. My name's Jack Lindsay, and I'm an activist and volunteer, currently serving as director for Senate District 49. And I'm running for DFL chair because I love this party. It's been a lifeline for families like mine since its inception, instrument for us to have a voice in the political system. I first got involved in 2008 when the economy crashed. My family started going to DFL meetings, and we felt valued and like we had a voice. And my fear is that working class and struggling people are increasingly not seeing the DFL as their voice in politics anymore. In 2004, we lost a lot of struggling people, a lot of marginalized voters, disenfranchised people to the GOP. They thought that they had a better economic message that spoke to them. And I'm running to arrest that slide as much as possible. I want to be a voice for people who have given up faith in us. And I also want to be a voice for our local unit leaders and our volunteers. People who make our local units run are so much more than volunteers. They are the DFL. They make our conventions run. They make our caucuses run. They're the lifeblood of this party. And I want to give local units, volunteers, from canvassers all the way up to our candidates, the acknowledgement that they are all indispensable. I want DFLers everywhere to know that they are valued and that we respect the work of everyone, from the volunteer on up to members serving in State House and Congress. So if you're a working class person, If you're a local unit leader, if you're somebody who wants to grow more Democrats where we don't have enough of them, a vote for me is a vote for yourself. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jack. And we'll hear from Lindy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Conrad. Thanks so much for hearing from all of us today. My name is Lindy Salmick. I'm running for DFL Treasurer. I've worked on over 100 campaigns in the last decade after graduating from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities with political science, but I've interned on congressional campaigns. I've worked at the House caucus as a canvasser through an organizer to communications staff and communications director. And then I worked for Education Minnesota. And in that time, I've supported like more than 100 campaigns, a lot of candidates, a lot of new candidates, a lot of new campaign teams. And I've seen a lot of preventable headaches is what I call it. I am somebody who wants to make government and campaigns accessible to everybody who wants to get involved. And I think that being able to be somebody who can centralize a lot of information, give frequently asked question resources. I've learned from teachers how to distribute resources in multiple different ways that people can understand and feel welcomed into the party. Right now is a really devastating moment for a lot of people. People are losing jobs. It's not normal, and we can't have a normal approach to our work either. I think that we really need to take the time to reflect, like a lot of the candidates are saying, and really move to action. I need 2026 to be bigger than 2018 because people's lives rely on it. I'm really committed to winning. I'm committed to fundraising in creative ways. I'm really committed to rural organizing as well as turnout in the cities and supporting all of our local units, new treasurers, and being a responsible and cooperative team member. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into the meat and potatoes of the forum. So question number 2. What is your vision for the relationship between the Minnesota DFL state party and our local units? And we'll actually kick it off with you, Lindy.
So my vision for the state party and our local party units is that everybody feels like they have a place in our party and everybody feels like they can be welcomed and safe and make friends at meetings. There are so many people right now who are ready to take action and not sure if they're allowed to, it feels like. And we really want to make sure that everybody feels agency to take action and find resources, find places where they can feel effective and advocate for issues that matter to them. I think that the DFL leadership team, like part of our role is to connect straight with our organizing units and make sure that they're feeling heard and that we're engaging in fair and democratic processes, because you can't have the leadership team out of touch with our organizing units and vice versa. People on the ground know their districts the best, and we want to make sure that everybody feels a part of this party that we're all engaging in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I feel that the state party is here to support our local units, and what that looks like in Minneapolis DFL might be different than it looks like in Greater Minnesota. But really, we're here to support you, to make sure that you have the resources you need to elect Democrats, elect DFLers up and down the ticket. So as a state party leader, I want to be a partner with you. I want to be someone who's a resource to you, who can help. As secretary, I would like to help proactively onboard members to our state central committee so that when you come to your first SEC meeting, you have a Robert's Rules cheat sheet. So you take a little bit of that mystery out of our process and you can jump into meetings or feel more comfortable to jump in, from your first meeting to speak up on issues. I also want to make sure that you have your minutes right away so you can take that information back to your local unit and so you can take action on it when you need to.
Thank you. Charles.
Yes, I pretty much agree with everything that's been stated so far. Just trying to build a stronger relationship between the state party and the local units. One good idea, one example would be, I remember earlier this month, we had at the outreach party that we had, they mentioned that the outreach officers, I believe there's over 100 plus officers. And, you know, we don't have direct contact with each other, which is odd, but it's something that, you know, can be simplified very, very easily. And I feel as though if I was elected, that would be something I would focus on as well, just to have that direct contact, you know, between the officers. So we could just engage, you know, I might see something that's going on in CD5 or, you know, CD2, and I want to know who all the outreach officers are from those districts and those areas. And me being an outreach officer, I have a direct contact, whether it be some kind of website app or whatever it may be, just to, you know, simplify the process. So I think, you know, just moving forward, there's a lot of little things that we could do to tweak the techniques to make the outreach efforts more effective. And that's something that I plan on doing if I was to be elected as the next state outreach officer. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do believe Siri boarded her flight. She can jump in if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she is boarded. So we'll jump right to Quentin.
Yeah, I think for me, ultimately, the relationship has to be collaborative. The work of our party happens in the neighborhoods. It happens at the, you know, by door, precinct by precinct. So at the heart of the relationship and what that should look like, it has to be collaborative. It can't be this top-down structure. We are a grassroots party at our core. So we need to be supporting our organizing units with materials, resources, trainings when available. I also think it's incumbent on us to make sure, to speaking to, you know, what Anita and other folks have mentioned, making sure that information is passed along consistently, passed along effectively, and that folks on the ground, our precinct chairs feel like that they have a stake in this party. They know what's going on, and they can effectively go out and do the work. So it has to be collaborative. It can't be this top-down approach. We have to work side by side because that's the only way we're going to get real organizing work done in this state.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Richard.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with much of what's been said. I just want to start by saying that I think our local party units are the backbone of our party. It is where a lot of this work must get done in order to ensure that we can field candidates at local and legislative levels, and the work to make sure that things like precinct caucuses run smoothly and are successful is so critical to how we as a party actually organize ourselves. You know, one of the greatest, I think, assets we have as a party is that we are a caucus and convention state. It is how people like Paul Wellstone can ultimately get elected to the U.S. Senate. And none of that would ever happen without our local units. So as a leader, I am a collaborative person. I'm a listener, and I want to understand how we can best support each other and ensure that we empower our local units as much as possible.
Thank you. And next we'll hear from Jack.
The approach of the state party to the local unit should be, what do you need and how can we help you? I think that we need to approach our local units from a position of humility. Valuing the people in our local units means understanding that they're taking time out of their day and donating a portion of their lives to make this party work. And I think that the state party should exist to serve the needs of those people. If that means asking them what they need to accomplish certain goals or helping them establish those goals, whatever they need from us, I think the state party should be there to address their needs. And I think coming at it from that basic point of humility, where we understand that these people aren't being paid largely, they are there because they care. And accommodating that and really valuing their service to our party is important to me.
Thank you. All right, let's move to question number 3. All right, what is your vision for changes to the caucus and convention endorsement systems in Minnesota? If you don't envision any changes, what do you like most about our current caucus and convention endorsement system? And Jack, we will start with you.
Well, I'll say that I think the endorsement system is the best way to choose a candidate. Again, the people who make our party work, who donate a portion of their lives to make this party run, and it can't be said enough. They get together and they elect candidates or nominate candidates, endorse candidates who reflect their interests, who reflect the point of view of the people who do the legwork in this party. And I think that we should respect that point of view as much as possible. What the endorsement system does is allows Democrats with great ideas to rise to levels of leadership within this party. On the other hand, the primary system favors well-established, well-funded candidates who are highly connected and have lots of name recognition. In effect, it limits our pool of talent to those people only. And as chair, I'm going to value our endorsement system. And if one of those systems has to be favored over the other, I will definitely push in the direction of the endorsement system because it is the voice of our party.
Thank you. Lindy, you're up next.
So I'm hearing a lot of thoughts about the caucus and convention system. I'm still looking forward to like talking to a lot more people about it. I think that caucuses and conventions are really important and one of the things that makes Minnesota such a great organizing state. I think that we have a brand problem a little bit with our endorsement system, especially with the public not understanding it, and also having trust in the caucus and convention process, making sure that we're having fair processes, acting kind of more like the Secretary of State's office, really, when you were trying to have free and fair elections and endorsement processes, because we need people to be able to rally around their endorsed candidate. And I think it's good to have in-person conversations, and it does, it balances the effect of money in like early on in campaigns, and it really gets candidates in front of people to hear from them and have a back and forth, and I really like that about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita.
Thank you for the question. I love our caucus and convention system. It's not perfect, but I think it's incredibly valuable for our party, and we absolutely need to continue with that. I would like to see a little bit more support for our local units. I'd like to see more centralized efforts. I'm sorry, my dog is howling in the background. Sorry about that if you hear her. I would like to see centralized process of translated documents. I'd like to see more support for interpreters for our conventions, especially, but for our caucuses as well when we need that. I would just like to see more communication from the party and more support so that we can effectively run these, because they're a large operation. And I have been the site lead for a caucus. I have helped run conventions, and I volunteered at other conventions, and we have a lot of ideas, but we're often working on our own. So I just want to see us support each other, share our resources, and I want to see the state party do a little bit more to support the leaders who are making these things happen.
Thank you. Charles.
Yes, I agree. The caucus conventions, they're definitely needed. And it's always good to, when you have, when you're hearing the voice from the people, I mean, that's what we want. That's a part of democracy. So as long as the people are able to choose who they would like to be their leaders, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. So with that, I don't think that obviously we could critique some things that are in place, but overall, if you have a system set up where people are people are behind making the decisions as to who they want to see lead, that works out for the community for the whole. So with that, I'll pass.
All right, thank you. And Quentin.
Yeah, so I've had the unique perspective of through my role, seeing other states how they do their business as a DNC member. I will fight to the death to protect our caucus and convention system. I think it's one of the only systems in this country of all of our Democratic parties that allow our grassroots activists to actually obtain and aspire for leadership. That doesn't mean it's not perfect. I would love to see, like Anita talked about, I would love to see more accessibility support for language. I would love us to have a really conversation about how we are thinking about our letter of support system and some of the limitations that we may have that are imposed on our local units and around caucus and conventions, and giving them more flexibility to do the work that they need to do, language support, translation, all of that. But I think this system is so important, and it's really the hallmark of our party and why our party is such a strong state party. So I will fight like hell for it.
Thank you. And last we'll hear from Richard.
Great. Love the question. Like I said in my previous answer, I think the caucus and convention system in Minnesota is one of our greatest opportunities, and I'll do everything I can to support it. Frankly, as somebody who was inspired to get into politics by Paul Wellstone and knowing he'd never have been able to serve if not for this kind of system we have in Minnesota, that's like proof enough for me. We need to continue to invest in it. I'm listening to folks talking about ways in which we can change it in small ways, and totally understand the state party should be more of a collaborator and making sure that we're centralizing opportunities to share information and to make it, I guess, more universal in terms of documents coming out in different languages and stuff like that. Lastly, I'm interested in thinking through whether or not we have time certain endorsements for conventions, because some people come to a convention and if they have to sit all day and not get to the endorsement yet, that can be very frustrating.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into question number 4. What strategy would you use for a winning ground game back to, or sorry, for winning ground game to win back a DFL majority in the state house and to flip the 1st, 6th, 7th, and 8th congressional districts to elect more DFL candidates in the rural areas? And this came from SD 12. And we will start with Jack.
Yeah, I think we need a message that speaks to people's actual concerns. And I think that we need to run candidates who represent those concerns. And that starts with having local units that are welcoming to people in rural areas, being respectful of attitudes and ideas that might be different out in rural areas than other parts of the state, but letting our local units really reflect the attitudes that exist out there. And I think that it's important that we have candidates who focus on the economic anxiety that affects farmers who are drowning in debt due to federal policies, the same way it affects maybe an African-American professional in Minneapolis denied promotion, or a white worker in Mankato who got injured on the job and is struggling to get workers' compensation. I think that the thing that unites us all as Democrats is our belief in the faith of this party to create a better economic life for people. And I think that we can address the same concerns for farmers, people in rural Minnesota, and also meet them where they are. A lot of people listen to right-wing radio. Well, let's put Democrats on right-wing radio out there and speak to the concerns of those people. Let's listen to their concerns and make a media ecosystem out there consisting of podcasts, things like that. There are so many ways that we could address people for low overhead and in very effective ways. And I think meeting them where they are is important, and speaking to their economic concerns.
Thank you. Lindy.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the biggest questions, and I'm as frustrated as so many people are about losing the range, Winona, like we're losing ground in areas that have been DFL strongholds forever. I think it's year-round organizing on the ground. I think it's partnering with labor and grassroots organizations and connecting with PTAs and, doing some of the community organizing in those areas year-round and having people there talking to people and increasing trust in the party. I also think that it's meeting people where they are. Farmers are being decimated by Trump's cuts right now, and we should be out there talking to farmers right now. I know how to run in Grand Rapids, Winona, like International Falls, Bemidji. I think they're all gettable, and I think people are looking for a place to go. And I really think that we can invest and make sure that we're having a big tent approach to the party that fits those areas.
Thank you. Anita.
Thank you for the question. In my conversations with folks all across our state, I'm hearing, especially in Greater Minnesota, that they want to be supported in the ways that they know are helpful because they're the people on the ground talking to folks. So I think we need to do more to uplift them, support them financially, and really make sure that, the people who live in these districts know what is best for their districts. So we should be listening to them and empowering that. I think we need to do more year-round organizing. I'm really excited about the prospects of doing that. I think we need to do more to support local and nonpartisan candidates for city council, school boards, county commission, those kind of seats, because these are the stepping stones to other elected offices. And when folks can get their name out there and can get elected, to their city council who share our values, that gives them a stepping stone when they do want to, run for a different seat or maybe a partisan seat. And so I think we have a lot of ways we can approach it. And it's a great question, and a minute's not enough time. Thanks.
You're welcome. Charles, we'll hear from you next.
I agree. There's definitely work needed, especially in the rural areas. I actually created a proposal that I put on my webpage that kind of addresses the difference between the inner city, in my opinion, the inner city relationships that the DFL has versus the experiences that go on in the rural areas. And one of the things is to strengthen the relationship, in my opinion, again, with friends and family members who are in those areas that are most affected. Um, there's obviously there's not no one size solution fits all, but I do believe just building a stronger relationship with the community, whether they even see they have different backgrounds, different perspectives. If there's some kind of common ground that we can reach in those areas, that will help. Again, I'm familiar with the rural area. I actually have a timeshare. I don't know if a lot of you know about Onamia, but I've been out there. My family's been out there since the 90s. We're the oldest family out there. So um, you can catch me on a four-wheeler on any good day, traveling up and down the Sioux Line Trail. So that's definitely an area that, I know well. And I do believe that if I am elected, I will be effective in trying to reach out to people who are the voices of their communities. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we just need to find more leaders in these specific areas that support our party, support our agendas, and push that on their people. That's there's so much going on right now with the things. Some of the things that the rural area might need, something as simple as broadband. There's, can you believe it? 2025, we don't even have. There's certain areas where you can't even receive reception. That's crazy. So there's definitely a lot of different approaches that we could use to engage and resonate with the people in the rural area. And again, I feel as though if I'm elected, I will contribute to that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Quentin.
Yeah, there is so much I could talk about here. I think one, supporting our organizing units on the ground right now to do, I think the necessary community building and organizing. I think a lot of folks need that support. They have been, a lot of folks have just been struggling, I think, for the last few years. So figuring out, I think doing kind of an analysis of what they need, how they can support, and really being hands-on will go a long way. I think we need to, I know folks are going to talk about, we need to get in early in these communities. We need to build relationships like right now. We should have been building them on January 20th and before. I also think that we need to be thinking about, particularly with our DFL messaging, is how we are really putting rural issues at the forefront, particularly particularly in Greater Minnesota. I think we have gotten lost in the sauce a little bit. So I think we need to think about how we're regionalizing our message, how we're using earned media to get that out, how we are fighting in social media to get that message across. But I think the big thing is we need to be organizing right now. People are angry, people are afraid. Let's support them. Let's lift them up. Let's create community for them, because that's how we bring activists into this party and build for the future.
Thank you. And last we'll hear from Richard.
Great. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what folks have said. I really believe that we need to organize. We need to, as quickly as possible in 2025, hire organizers so that we can maximize our opportunities in 26. In 2005, I got hired early by Howard Dean's 50-state program. I was the first of 4 organizers put on the ground in Minnesota, assigned to CD6, and I got to start building relationships more than a year before the election. And ultimately, in 2006, we were able to maximize that opportunity, and we in Woodbury beat 3 Republicans and elected 3 amazing Democrats, all women, who made Woodbury go blue, and we've never gone back. So we can do this in Greater Minnesota. I think it's important to say that Grant Hochschild should not be the only Democrat up on the range. We can win one of those seats. We can win a seat down in Winona. We can win a seat in Mankato. We can win another seat in the St. Cloud area. And we're going to do so by grassroots organizing like this party knows how to do.
Thank you. I'll move to question number 5. How do you plan on engaging our disaffected and disenfranchised community members after this last election? And this comes from Latanya, who is a member of Minneapolis DFL and lives in SD 61. And we will start with Jack.
Yeah, well, if we're talking about members of our local units, the people who, had been active, but for whatever reason, just don't feel valued anymore or feel like people aren't listening to them, I think that absolutely starts with the approach I mentioned earlier. What do you need from the central party, and how can we help you? If our local units are struggling in any way, the central party should be there to help them. And if we're talking about people who have lost faith in our party, I think that goes back to, what do we stand for? What does it mean to be a Democrat? Again, I am firmly of the belief that people look to the DFL and the Democratic Party as a vehicle to advance their economic interests in a world that is getting more and more difficult to exist in. And if we lose that, people aren't really going to know what to make of us. And if we have a message that's so scattershot that has no cohesive unity, people aren't going to have an answer to the question, what does it mean to be a DFLer? And I think listening to the economic concerns, the financial pain of members of our communities all across the state, and hearing how it specifically affects them, how it specifically affects people in those communities, and then welcoming them in, letting them have a say in our party, letting them nominate candidates who reflect those attitudes and who want to alleviate their pain. I think that's how we bring more people in, make a stronger party, and in fact, make a working class movement that can last beyond a single election and hopefully animate the DFL for years to come.
Thank you. Lindy, you're up next.
And messaging in Minnesota. Like, that's just true. Like, they've come up, they're not good at fundraising yet, good, but like, it's there are real concerns, especially with how we're losing people of color, how we're losing union members, how we're losing rural folks. I think that they're identifying a huge place where they can decrease trust in us, because they're also decreasing trust in government. When like people are having a hard time, they're saying, I feel you, I hear you. And I think that the change comes with new leadership that reflects them, and not only talking a big game about issues, it's actually showing up, right? It's showing up to labor actions, it's showing up for communities of color, it's being able to be there when the Republican talking points hit them, so that they can know, like, oh, the other party are real people that know me and care about me. And that would be one of my main goal, is increasing trust in the party as somebody who's running. So that would be a huge part of what I want to do.
Thank you. Anita.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think we need to do a lot of things. We need to listen first, and then we need to actually act and follow through on the things that we're hearing from our community members. I think we need to do more organizing around issues, because that is a way that lots of people who don't engage with our party are already engaging in the political process, is around an issue that they care about. So I think we need to do more of that. And I also think we need to really think about who's in leadership in our party. And I think we need to make space for new leaders in our party. I love that there's a lot of institutional knowledge, and sometimes there's not really an opportunity for others to get involved. So we want their labor, we want their money, but we don't have a role for them to step into to be a leader and to put their ideas, into the structure of their organizing units or of our party in general. And so I think we need to do more to expand our big tent and to uplift people in the work that they're already doing. I've got a bunch of notes and I'm trying to like string them together. I'm out of time. There's a lot. This is a great question. They're all wonderful.
Yeah, this is a really great question. And I know that this is really the crux of a lot of conversations that DFLers are having right now about what comes next. So I absolutely understand keeping it to 1 minute is very difficult, but we're all going to do our best here. And Charles, you're up next.
Yes, this is a good question, and definitely deserves more than a minute. I cannot stress the importance of being visible in these communities. They're not, from experience, they're not going to even engage with you if you're not a familiar face. In order for them to trust the messenger, they have to be familiar with the messenger. So what that means that we have to actually be in these spaces, physically be in these spaces, and not pretty much tell them what to do, but listen. I've heard a couple of people who spoke before me. That's very important as well. All of these communities, they're aware of the DFL. They're very well. They know who we are. We need to listen to them and understand, what is it? Why do they not want to engage in our party? Once we start there, then we can, backtrack and find our things that we have in common moving forward. But again, I think the most powerful message that we can do as a party is show up in these spaces. That just hands down. That breaks the ice barrier. You get to listen to these people. They see you in different spaces, in different times, different settings. That makes them put their guard down and open up to us. And I truly believe that I have some sincere relationships with different walks of life that if I were to be elected the next outreach officer, that I think it would be effective for the party as a whole, to engage with these people. I just feel it. I feel like I can bring a large segment of people to the party who might not have engaged before, and that's just something that we need. So again, moving forward, we have to be in these spaces. Thank you.
Quentin, you're up next.
Yeah, I think for me, it comes to, at its core is we've disengaged from these communities to an extent. I think we have shown up 2 weeks before election day and said, please vote for the DFL. And we're just not present in their communities. So I think for me, it's about working with organized units, working with folks throughout the party about how we're actually getting in early, building long-term relationships, not just transactional relationships, but long-term relationships. We're showing up, we're creating space for people. We're not inviting people to a business meeting where they can sit through a 300-item agenda, but we're actually engaging in conversation and creating spaces where people can be comfortable, right? I think we need to stop thinking about this in purely the electoral organizing lens. We need to be thinking about this like community organizers because we need to rebuild trust in these communities. So it has to be a completely different approach because that is going to help us with our long-term goals of bringing these folks back into the party. But we got to get out of our box of showing up right before election day. We need to be out here now having conversations and building community.
Thank you. And sorry, and Richard.
Awesome. Yeah, I've made the commitment that if I'm elected chair on March 29th, we're going to hire organizers earlier than ever. And it includes in communities that feel like we show up the Sunday before election, expecting the vote rather than earning it over the long term. I think these organizers, both in greater Minnesota and in specific communities, are going to be community organizers that are focused on developing long-term relationships that demonstrate the inherent value that these communities have for our party. And validate the fact that they are a part of this coalition, a critical part of this coalition, and our future success as well. So I think organizing early is going to be our answer, and making sure that folks can build those authentic relationships that ultimately, when it comes time to turn out the vote, we can rely upon to be successful.
Thank you. And we'll move to question number 6. What do you see as the core values of the Minnesota DFL party? And what does outreach and inclusion look like in a time of increasing ideological polarization? This question came from Minneapolis, and we'll start with you, Richard.
Wow, this is a fantastic question. So, when I think about our core values as a party, fairness, equality, justice are all words that come to mind immediately. But it's what Paul Wellstone implored us in 2002 and throughout his career, which is politics is about the improvement of people's lives. And as a party, I think it is our responsibility to show up each and every day to make sure that Minnesotans know that there is an organization out there that is thinking and is learning and is listening carefully to how we can encourage our elected officials to improve the lives of those around us in a way that is a fundamentally fair approach to how we build our community and our state. I think the outreach and inclusion efforts that exist within their party are absolutely critical. They're key on-ramps for new participation in our party and the ability for us to expand our coalition broadly.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jack.
I think the core values of the DFL are to represent the interests of the common people in Minnesota. It's in the name, the farmers and laborers, and by extension, everybody who works for somebody else for a living. The people who aren't elites, we work for other people and we're 1 or 2 paychecks away from financial ruin. I think the DFL has been the political engine for those people since its inception. And I really hope that we continue to be that engine for struggling people in Minnesota. I think that outreach and inclusion primarily involves listening to the needs of our specific communities. Every part of Minnesota is not the same. Some parts of Minnesota, the only place to work might be a McDonald's or a Walmart. Other places have very high-paying jobs in competitive sectors. And these kinds of economies look different, and the people in them have different concerns. But what unites us as a party is our belief that we can be the political vehicle to address those concerns. And I think inclusion means letting people who feel that anxiety, who feel that pain, be the spokespeople for our party, bringing them in, putting them in leadership positions, letting them develop platforms and programs that speak to them and their communities. And that goes to every level, to school boards, county commissioners, city council races. I want the DFL to be a presence in the lives of people all throughout Minnesota, and I want it to represent, in the minds of everybody and in reality, the interests of working class people.
Thank you. Lindy, you're up next.
This is a really good question. I think personally, I think about workers or working families versus billionaires. When I think about it right now, I think about New Deal Democrats versus trickle-down economics. But it's not about my personal ideology. It's about logistics and what the DFL stands for everybody, which is electing good people to do good things for people. And that's how I zoom out and think about all of the DFL work. Local communities lead, like they have their values, they have their direction, and then we are here to have a fair process and then support local communities, chosen candidate. I think in a time of ideological polarization, we can see it like in the labor movement. Like unions still do their work. They find shared values. They come together. I also love the connection between like Aisha Gomez and Dave Lislegard. If you guys have seen that at the Minnesota House, there are people with vastly different ideologies who will stand up for each other, work like you don't have to agree on 100% of things, but I have your back, and that's the solidarity we need inside the DFL.
Thank you. Anita.
Yeah, the core values for me that I see of our Minnesota DFL party, we're hardworking people. We have solidarity with each other. We listen, we respect each other. We really focus on people, and we focus on improving people's lives. And I think those are the values that we have to ground ourselves in. Outreach and inclusion, and I'm thinking about outreach specifically because through that and through doing outreach that's grounded in our shared values, that's where you can actually bring in the inclusion piece. I think it really just means listening and having conversations with folks. And we see it in our local elections, which is where I got my start in politics, was in local elections. Because there are people that we have shared values with, and we need to build on those shared values. And that's how we bring people into our big tent, is by having solidarity with them on the issues that we share together, that we care about. And that we know can make our lives better, because at our core, we all really just want to be able to afford to live our lives. We want to have relative safety and security, and not just like I'm physically safe in this moment and, safe from crime, but like we want safety and security, and that we can see a future for ourselves and for our families and our kids and our grandkids. And so through our shared values, we can do all of this through our outreach work, and that's how we bring people in.
Thank you. And Charles.
I agree with everybody who spoke so far. What are the core values of our party? Just basically to not leave anybody behind. Woman or man. We have to create that image that this is what we stand for, and by that it could be people that are the most well-off people to the people who need assistance and don't have a lot of funding. We just have to get out here and talk to everyone from all different walks of life, and let them know that we hear them, we are part of them, we support them, and we're willing to help their efforts in whatever it is that they're trying to do. An example would be part of the organization, another organization I'm a part of, BPA. We actually creating a platform, a forum for CD5 for the city council. So it's just gestures and efforts like that. When you create these spaces and you're allowing people to be heard and allowing other community members to hear them, it resonates with people. It shows that we care as a party. And again, if I were allowed to be the next outreach officer, I plan on just trying to do my best to do whatever it takes to bring more people to the party, bring more awareness, but not just bring them to the party, but actually have results for them, have them, create leadership roles for these different walks of life, and go hard and talk to I have a lot of relationships with a lot of legislative people, You know, so I think that that will be very effective as well to, you know, when these different groups do have concerns or issues, even though I'm an outreach officer, I still plan on bringing these issues directly to people that I have contacts with, you know, to see if I can assist in making people's lives better. Thank you.
And Quentin, we'll hear from you.
Yeah, so the first part of that question, I think I echo a lot of what other folks have said. I think our core values of our party are based in this, you know, upper Midwestern, you know, these core American values that I think we've gotten away with of fairness, equity, equality. And I think we've run away from that as a country, but I think our party needs to stand strong on those values. So for me, echo everything what everybody else has said, but I think to the second part of that question, I think right now, especially where people are so fearful for their own safety, for the safety of others, for their own economic well-being, for what the future looks like, I think it's about engaging in community, being out in community, having conversations, creating space for that. Because I think right now people want to be heard. I think there's not a lot of venues right now for people that get that voice and that anger and that frustration out. And I think that's what it has to look like in this hyper polarized environment. People want a safe space for community to engage in these conversations. And I think that's how we start to build something bigger and better for our party.
Thank you. I'll move into question number 7. I believe we have 2 left. So thank you all for your time. So number 7, if you were offered a role in a Democratic presidential administration, would you stay in Minnesota or serve at the national level? And this is from a question from SD22. We'll start with you, Quentin.
I'm still trying to process this question. I'm never leaving Minnesota. My family's lived in this state. My family came to this state in the 1860s. We're old 1860s Italians on my mom's side. I'm fourth generation Minnesota. My dad came from East Africa to this country. My wife's from North Dakota. I ain't going nowhere. As much as it'd be such an honor to serve our country. This is home. This will always be home. I've lived in other places, and this is a fun question, but no, it's weird to say this is where I'm gonna live. This is where I'm gonna die. And this is where my children are gonna be raised. So I'm not going nowhere.
All right, thanks, Quentin. Richard, you're up next.
Same, not going anywhere. No, thank you. I like Minnesota. And frankly, I don't like DC that much, to be honest with you.
All right, well, we're gonna move right along in this one. Jack, you're up next.
Yeah, I would absolutely stay in Minnesota. I think people have enough faith in me to elect me to serve in this capacity. It would be insulting to them for me to leave them behind. It's also quite a lot of energy and support for our agenda, the new American system. And if people decide to put me in that role, I will fight for it wholeheartedly for my entire tenure as chair. And my devotion is entirely with that position.
All right, thank you. Lindy.
States are so much more fun than the federal government. And I love Minnesota a lot. And I think that there's so much more potential that you can have a really good effect on the federal government, but like you can work within the state that you love and the state that is your home. And I think like I fell in love with Minnesota. Like I moved here for college. I've been here for about 10 years, but like I am all about the hard purple politics, the working class, the labor history, the political history here. And I just I'm using my time to just gush about Minnesota because I think that anybody who chooses, I mean, like I have a lot of friends who have worked in DC and everything. I don't blame them, but I also am like, I would never choose DC over. So thanks.
Thank you. Anita.
Yeah, like the others, I choose Minnesota. My family's from here. This is where I want to live, and I have 3 little kids, so it's really important that they grow up in their community and continue to serve their community. And I'm going to use my time not to gush about Minnesota, but to gush about my kids because I have 2 funny kid stories. First off, my youngest is in kindergarten. He is 6, and he has learned that the White House has a bowling alley. So he's convinced that I need to run for president so that we can have a bowling alley in our house. I'm like, no, buddy, I'm not. But he's like, but mom, like bowling. So he's really pushing for that, but I keep telling him, no, we're staying here. And then the other piece is that I really believe that it's important to give back to our community. It's important to me that I continue to give back to Bloomington, to Minnesota, to all of the places and spaces that I'm from. And my kids see me as a regular fixture in their school, and it's just what we do, right? So people ask them, why is your mom here? Does she work at school? It's like, no, she's just volunteering here. So anyway, Minnesota, and stay for my kids.
Thank you. And last we'll hear from Charles.
I'm pretty much like everyone else. Born and raised here in Minnesota, not going anywhere. When I was young coming up, I mean, this is so real to even be in the position that I'm in. When I was little, I used to think about what I would do, or, if I was able to have some kind of influence. And, just, years later to be in this situation, I mean, I'll just love to be able to watch, communities that I'm familiar with, communities that I grew up in, just change for the better. And if I can assist in some kind of way, I mean, that's priceless to me. So as far as leaving anywhere, no, I'm staying right here.
Awesome. Well, that was unanimous. Everyone's staying in Minnesota. We'll move right into our next question. Campaign work is exhausting. That is an understatement. What has been the most difficult part of campaigning for you, and what do you recommend to fellow organizers? And this is based off a question from SD37. And we will start with Quentin.
That's such a great question. I think sometimes it can be some of the interpersonal stuff. I think when you were I ran 2 paid canvases for Planned Parenthood in 18 and 20. And it was really fun work, but I think where my frustration and all that like stuff comes is you're all working, you're grinding, you're trying to do your work, and you let the little stuff kind of go by the wayside. And I think as Minnesotans sometimes we like to hold a lot of that in, and then like things just blow up and boil over. So I think sometimes it's the speed of the work, the amount of work, and there's just sometimes I think we're pushing ourselves, I think. So my advice is to find those times for rest whenever they are. If that means for you, if that's, for me when I was a manager, if that was saying, hey, I need you to go take a day and do your things, or if that's finding that time for that self-care and self-love throughout the day, that goes so far in just trying to like support and nurture the soul. So that is something I think about from when I was doing campaign work as full time. It's the little stuff, but you got to care for and love yourself,
Definitely. Richard, you're up next.
Great question. During the 2002 Minnesotans United campaign, that was probably the most stressful and exhausting campaign I can recall being a part of. And we had a couple of different things that we would encourage our volunteers and our staff people to keep in mind. First and foremost, give one another the benefit of the doubt. It's so important when we're doing this work to not assume ill intentions immediately by folks that you're collaborating with, but instead try and see the situation from their perspective. And so always encouraging people to give one another the benefit of the doubt. And then number two, I think in campaigns, you have to find the moments where, you can go for a short walk outside while taking a phone call. Or, sometimes when I have a one-on-one, I say, instead of meeting in the office, let's go and walk around a little bit to just get some fresh air, to clear our heads, to have this collaboration in a different space. So those are 2 things that come to mind.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jack.
Yeah, in my experience, maintaining morale can always be the most challenging aspect. You put so much work into a campaign, especially as a volunteer. Again, you're giving time out of your day. You're doing it for no money, but you're doing it because you feel like you have a stake in it at the end of the day. You're doing it for the women in your life who might get an ectopic pregnancy, or you're doing it for Jim down the road who lost his job. You're doing it for your mom who's in a labor union and they're trying to bust it. You're doing it for people you know in your community. And I think that the more we make this party about community, about the people you know in your life, about the interests of the people you love, I think it'll help with our morale, because you won't feel like you're doing charity work. You'll feel like you're doing it because you have a personal stake in the success of this party, and so do the people you care about. So maintaining morale, I think, is very important, and it's very difficult. And as chair, I'd want to make sure that if there are campaigns that are experiencing a crisis of morale, well, we'll do everything we can as the central party to alleviate that and keep this train rolling.
Thank you. Lindy.
I love this question. I think it's something that we need to talk about more often. The three things that exhaust me most on campaigns are personality conflicts, gossip, and feeling like it doesn't matter. I think we learn a lot more from our losses. But I've been a really good help to a lot of candidates on refocusing on the goal, zoom out a little bit. What Richard said, like go on a walk, find the ways that you can like be outside and drink tea, like mental health work, but also folks that can overcome tension and can refocus and can feel like you're supporting each other, and having that solidarity. I want to make sure that everybody knows that like their door knocking hours matter. And I'm just thinking about like the election parties I've been at, like Lucia was a big one last year, and I was with her and I was like, you did like the absolute most amount of work, and like you made connections, you moved the needle. Like it is so hard out here, but like it matters regardless. And the people that you meet and the fun you had is so important also. So I'm about winning campaigns, but I'm also about making sure that everybody knows that we need to work against that exhaustion and make sure that everybody feels cared for and heard. Sorry, I went over.
Sorry. Anita.
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing is when you get caught up in a moment, and whether it's because you're overwhelmed, right, and you've forgotten what the plan is, if you're managing a campaign, or if you're all just exhausted, right? And so people might take something the wrong way, or they might feel like there is a personality conflict. And so for me, it's really just assuming good intent, taking a moment to take a deep breath, take a step back, planning out your campaign, right? Or planning out your strategy, and then stick to the plan, right? Make the plan in a sane moment so that you can run the plan. And then even when it's crazy, you've got something, a guiding light to keep you going forward. Vegetables, eat vegetables. I always bring a GOTV salad those last few weeks of the election, and people see my salad and they're thrilled about it. So eat some vegetables. We always feel better when we eat a vegetable. And I'm a mom, so I'll put that plug in there. And then I would say just take the time that you need. And if it means you need to take a day off, right? Like think of us as a choir. I know that sounds cliche, right? But like take your break, catch your breath. Somebody else is going to sing for you. Jump back when you're ready, because we need you. We need all of us.
Thank you. And I love that analogy. That's one of my favorite organizing analogies, Anita. And we'll finish up with Charles.
Yes, I definitely know how campaigns can be exhausting. I was just coming off this last election, the Harris Walz campaign. I mean, I can tell you from experience, some of those hours were strenuous. Averaging 10 hours a day. But in any event, what do I do when I find myself maybe getting in these state of minds where I might feel exhausted? I just remember what the purpose is. What am I doing at the moment, and how important does it mean to me and to people in the community? So I always find that would distract me in a way and get me back to focus on, so no matter how hard I might feel things are, or there's a lot going on, just constantly remind myself of what am I doing this for? What's my purpose? And, if this is done, the outcome is it's beneficial, so, and then with my personal, people that might know me personally, if I might be around people who might feel exhausted and they're complaining about a certain situation, I might just, use my personal experience as an example to say, hey, if I get out here in this chair, you know what I mean, and move around like this, I don't really resonate with too much complaining as far as, that is concerned, because if I can get out here and do it, anybody can. So again, I know these processes can be exhausting, but if you have the real passion, I think that will outweigh, any of these moments that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I just want to say thank you to all of our candidates today for coming in and taking the time to speak with us, answer some questions, and just kind of have some robust debate about, the direction of our party. I know that that's something on a lot of DFLers' minds right now, and Democrats across the country. It's really very much so what's next. With Ken in the position taking over as the new DNC chair, that's obviously going to shift the direction of the national party in some ways. And so it's really important for us in Minnesota to have the same conversation. So I want to thank you all for coming today, for sharing with us your ideas on what we can do to bring this party forward. And I want to thank everyone who spent their Sunday afternoon with us listening to the answers for all of this. It's really important. If you are not a member of the SCC, please find your representative from your Senate district and talk to them about your thoughts, because they are there to represent their district. So we really want to make sure that when we are voting at the State Central Committee, that our delegates there have been ingrained in their community, in their Senate district, and are representing all the voices. So if you are not an SCC member, I definitely recommend speaking to the SCC members in your local district. And if you are, I will see you at the business conference in about a month. I know there's going to be a couple more forums, and I know CD3 is actually having a election today, so I have a feeling it's a busy Sunday in the DFL as always. But I do want to say thank you for taking time with us today with Minneapolis DFL, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday. And hey, happy St. Patrick's Day too.
All right. See everybody later. Thank you.